The moment she lifted the pen, her hands were shaking so badly that a drop of ink smeared across the white paper like a wound that refused to close. Around her, the Christmas party sparkled with laughter, fairy lights, and glasses clinking in celebration, but inside her chest, everything felt hollow and broken. No one noticed the tears sliding silently down her cheeks as she signed the divorce papers on a decorated table meant for desserts, not endings. To everyone in the room, she was just another woman whose marriage had failed during the holidays. No one knew that the woman crying under the glow of Christmas lights was the wife of a billionaire, and no one knew how much she had already lost long before that pen touched the page. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and hidden strength behind silent tears, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart. Her name was Elena, and for years she had mastered the art of disappearing in plain sight. She wore simple dresses, avoided attention, and smiled politely even when her world felt like it was collapsing. People assumed she was lucky to be married to a powerful man, a man whose name appeared in business magazines and whose face was known in elite circles. What they did not see was the loneliness of standing beside someone who measured life in profits and losses, or the quiet humiliation of being treated like an accessory instead of a partner. At that Christmas party, hosted by distant relatives who barely knew her, Elena had already made her decision. She had chosen peace over luxury, dignity over silence, even if it meant walking away with nothing but her name. The party itself felt unreal, like a scene from a movie where joy existed only on the surface. Snow pressed gently against the windows, carols played in the background, and children laughed near the tree. Elena sat at the edge of the room, clutching a folder that felt heavier than any suitcase she had ever carried. Inside it were papers that marked the official end of a life she had once believed in. Memories flooded her mind as she stared at the signatures already printed there. She remembered the early days when love felt simple, when promises were whispered without lawyers or contracts, when she believed that support and understanding mattered more than power. Somewhere along the way, love had turned into control, and partnership had turned into isolation. Signing those papers in public was not an accident. Elena knew that if she took them home, she might hesitate. She might remember the good days and convince herself to endure a little longer, but she had reached the point where enduring meant disappearing completely. The tears that fell onto the page were not just for the marriage ending that night, but for the years she had spent shrinking herself so others could shine. As she signed, she felt exposed, not because people were watching, but because she was finally acknowledging the truth she had hidden even from herself. What no one in that room knew was that Elena had been the quiet force behind much of the empire her husband claimed as his own. Before the wealth, before the private jets and glass towers, there had been late nights at a small kitchen table where she helped shape ideas, correct plans, and offer insights that saved fragile beginnings. She had signed away her recognition back then too, believing love meant sacrifice. Over time, that sacrifice became expected, then demanded. By the time the billions arrived, Elena's name had long been erased from the story, and her presence reduced to formal appearances and controlled smiles. After the papers were signed, she stood up slowly, steadying herself as if learning to walk again. No dramatic exit followed. She did not announce her pain or demand attention. She simply slipped on her coat and stepped outside into the cold night air. Snowflakes brushed her face, cooling the heat of her tears. For the first time in years, she felt fear and relief tangled together in her chest. She had no clear plan, no mansion waiting, no driver to take her home. What she had was freedom, fragile and terrifying, but real. The days that followed were harder than anyone could imagine. Elena moved into a small apartment with mismatched furniture and thin walls. The silence there was different from the silence of her old life. It was not imposed, it was chosen. She took simple work under a different name, avoiding anything that connected her to the world she had left behind. People around her spoke casually about billionaires and scandals, never realizing that the woman pouring coffee or reviewing documents had once lived inside those headlines. At night, doubt crept in, whispering that she had made a mistake, that comfort was easier than courage. But every morning, she woke up feeling slightly more like herself. Change did not come overnight. There were moments when she cried alone, grieving the life she thought she would have, and moments when anger flared at how invisible her contributions had been. Yet slowly, something remarkable happened. Elena began to remember who she was before she learned to be quiet. She started writing again, sketching ideas that had been buried for years. She connected with people who valued her thoughts, not her title. The same intelligence and creativity that had once helped build an empire now began building something entirely her own. Months later, news broke quietly in business circles about a new venture gaining attention for its innovation and ethical approach. Few connected it to the past, and even fewer recognized the woman behind it. Elena did not seek revenge or validation. She sought purpose. Her success was not loud or flashy, but it was steady and deeply satisfying. She hired people who had been overlooked, invested in ideas that prioritized people over profit, and created a culture rooted in respect. For the first time, her work reflected her values, not someone else's ambition. 1 year after that Christmas party, Elena walked past a familiar window filled with lights and decorations. She paused, watching strangers laugh inside, and felt a quiet sense of gratitude. That night of tears had not broken her, it had freed her. The divorce papers that once felt like a symbol of loss had become proof of courage. She had chosen herself when no one else did, and in doing so, she had rewritten her story. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment right now to comment below and share what part resonated with you the most. Your words might help someone else who feels alone in their struggle. As Elena continued forward, she understood something deeply important. Wealth without respect is emptiness, and love without kindness is control. She did not need the world to know she had once been a billionaire's wife. What mattered was that she had become a woman who owned her voice, her choices, and her future. The tears she shed at that Christmas party no longer defined her. They were simply the beginning of a life built on truth instead of appearances. Before this story ends, I have one special request for you. Please comment the word hope if you believe that even the most painful endings can lead to beautiful new beginnings. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that quiet strength can change everything, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that are still waiting to heal.